So the Lions lost, and there's no way I'm going to be a jerk to the rest of the league. I have to stay humble, right? We will start in the division. Will someone tell Sam Darnold that we all get the bit? Like, yes, it's objectively funny that he's on some kind of reality TV show where for weeks the NFL tries to convince him he's a good quarterback. But this joke really honestly does not have legs. Like 10 yards per attempt this week, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Like, now sure, like Justin Jefferson did get half of those yards on 4 catches. And he's reportedly got a quad injury that's likely to slow him down going forward. But the Vikings beat the 49ers. And as much as I'd like to, I can't completely discount that because that is impressive. They beat a very good team. The Vikings D sacked Brock Purdy 5 times. And man, it's really hard to lose a game when you're getting that kind of pressure on the opposing quarterback. Anyway, the Vikings are 2-0 at the top of the NFC North. The Bears were not able to overcome how terrible Caleb Williams still is this week and fell to 1-1 on the season as a result. Their defense only allowed 19 points, which should be enough to win a game, but their putrid offensive line threw 2 intercept. Wait, that's not how it works. It's the quarterback who throws the ball, right? Well, whoever's fault it is, 0 passing touchdowns and 2 interceptions, but 174 yards was too much for a solid defensive performance to overcome. The Bears gave up 7 sacks and only managed 205 yards of total offense. Only they'd been playing the Lions this week. That might have been enough. The Texans handled their business. The Packers won a game with Malik Willis as their quarterback. He might not even have been worth the 2nd overall pick of his draft year, but apparently he's still capable of outdueling AR-15, who was the 3rd overall pick in his draft year. In this battle of quarterbacks who suck at playing quarterback, Richardson threw 3 picks, and Green Bay ran the ball 1,000 times, as a not completely inept coach should do when his quarterback is legitimately terrible. Midway through the 3rd quarter, the Pack's thrown the ball 5 times. Facing 9-man boxes at the end of the game, Willis managed to lob a few over the defense's head to give the illusion of competence in his stat line. Remember last week when I said we might see a Josh Dobbs-like run here while the league figured out what to expect from a Willis-led Packers offense? Well, the unknown was enough to beat the hapless Colts. Packers ran the ball 53 times Sunday. But I'm sure some idiot will say that the 14 passing attempts the Colts didn't even bother to defend, is proof that their god-awful draft take a few years ago about Willis was not the dumbest thing that they've ever said. And I'll freely admit that they're correct on that particular thing because the thing that they just said would probably be a brand new low in that regard. The Dallas Cowboys, America's team, were apparently voicing their opinion on the downfall of the American Empire Sunday as they dropped their game 44-19 to the shockingly effective Saints offense. 35 points allowed by this Dallas defense at halftime. I guess Dan Quinn was the only thing holding that mess of a franchise together. Couldn't happen to a more deserving team or a more deserving fan base. The Washington Commanders stood tall in the battle of the 2 most overrated cities in America, defeating the New York Giants 21-18. In a spectacular impression of Ben Johnson's 2024 offense, the Commanders came away with no touchdowns, and kicker Austin Siebert was 7 for 7 from the field, which is a crazy day. They scored 21 points, didn't get a single touchdown. In a stunning display of competency, the Washington Commanders won a game in which they sacked the quarterback 5 times. And if the Lions coaches could maybe watch that tape and figure out how to do that, all of us Lions fans would be appreciative. The Seahawks beat the Patriots in overtime yesterday to go to 2-0. I remember some draft geniuses saying the Lions were idiots for drafting Gibbs in round 1 because they could have just gotten the exact same thing in round 2 or 3. Well, Jahmyr Gibbs is averaging 5.2 yards, and the person most often listed in that, Zach Charbonnet, is averaging 2.3 yards this season. But they both got a single touchdown, so Spider-Man meme, am I right? It's weird to think of the Seahawks as a team slinging the ball all around the yard when so much of their recent history was defined by beast mode. But DK Metcalf and Jackson Smith-Njigba were both over 100 yards. I guess it's a new day in Seattle. They're at the top of the West. The Cardinals beat the hell out of the Rams, 41-10. Tiny little Kyler Murray set the tone for his team with 3 touchdowns in the air. It's good to see them excel when they're all grown. Well, not up, but when they're all grown, like Kyler Murray is. Stafford couldn't summon the magic he had against the Lions. Maybe the Cardinals didn't boo his wife and kids hard enough to activate his rage-based arm angles. Cardinals are 1-1 and the Rams fall to 0-2. The Carolina Panthers have cemented themselves as the biggest joke in professional. Actually, no. Most amateur teams are run better than this. They're just the worst run team in sports at any level. I'm pretty sure my fantasy football team is run better than this. And I'm barely paying attention to this league. Their owner has set the tone in this place where a new hire at head coach feels enough pressure to win immediately in his first season that he's benched the only chance he will ever have at a franchise quarterback before the clock runs out on his tenure 2 weeks into this season. And don't get me wrong, Bryce Young has played poorly enough to absolutely deserve this benching. But the other guy's Andy Dalton. What? I've spoken in the past about how the target for a quarterback's interception percentage is 2% for them to have even come remotely close to having a good season. Well, most of you are going to watch the Panthers to see how badly Young was playing, so I'll just give you a quick comparison here. We're all mad that Jared Goff has thrown so many picks that his percentage is 3.6%. Bryce Young is at a 5.4% of his passes this year that have been interceptions. That is 1 out of every 20 throws, a little more than that, which is insane. But you don't see the Colts pulling Anthony Richardson because his is 5.7%. If I'm going to be really blunt, last year's coaching staff had Young playing fine for a rookie with his 1.9% interception rate and not very many touchdowns with no offensive weapons. Dave Canales is going to be one and done as a head coach in the NFL. I'm calling that right now. There's a reason Ben Johnson said he would only even interview with them if they were okay with his salary request of $10 million per season and a 6-year deal. The Panthers are just straight trash. Falcons take on the Eagles in Monday Night Football to round out the NFC. It hasn't happened yet as of the time I'm recording this. Congratulations and consolation to the winners and losers of tonight's contest. I'm sure interesting things will have happened. How about that AFC? Bills beat the Dolphins, and DeMar Hamlin gave Tua a concussion that should be but won't be his last play in the NFL because nobody in this league actually cares about player safety. They're just trying not to get sued for more money by the Players Association or lose their antitrust exemption from the U.S. government that is basically the source of all of their profit. The Jets proved that they're not the worst team in the NFL by beating the Titans. In zero shock to Michiganders who went to a real university, Jim Harbaugh is a hell of a football coach, and the Chargers are 2-0, ahead of the Chiefs by tiebreakers, who I'm not sure if you guys know this, but they have a player who's dating Taylor Swift. They also beat the Bengals in what might have been the best game of the year so far. The Bengals are 0-2. Probably shouldn't be. We can forget the Broncos exist until they run Sean Payton out of town. Bo Nix isn't Drew Brees, no matter how much we squinted him. That team is terrible. The Raiders beat the shockingly bad Baltimore Ravens. Remember when those guys stomped the hell out of the Lions last year to the point that people were screaming for Dan Campbell's head on a spike? Yeah, sure, those people were morons, and it's a thing people said on the internet, though. So, according to a disturbingly large number of people, that means that it must be true. Anyway, the Ravens have joined the Bengals as teams currently behind a team quarterbacked by someone who reports have said doesn't understand some of the basic tenets of football after 7 years in the NFL. Oh, wait, it's 6, right? What was that suspension for? Being a horrible human being who preyed on dozens of women, allegedly. Allegedly, I don't want to get sued. The Steelers have started Justin Fields twice this year, and they've won 2 games. See how this works, Bears? Fields has 273 yards passing and a touchdown to interception ratio of infinity in a good way. He's only allowed himself to be sacked twice, has 84 rushing yards on the year. Caleb Williams has 267 yards on the season and a TD interception ratio that is infinite in the bad way. In 59 rushing yards on top of that. TikTok, Coach Eberflus. TikTok. Steelers are 2-0 atop the AFC North. In the South, Texans are 2-0. Not sure if I mentioned that at the beginning. Everyone else sucks, and they're all 0-2. Bye!